Hello and welcome to another episode of Sense&Rants. On today's episode, we're talking about education, formal and informal. Today, I have with me Onokwe, George, and Uzi. Let's meet our guests. Okay, all right, guys. Thank you so much for calling on Sense&Rants. Would you please introduce yourselves?
Hello, everybody. My name is George, and I am a master's degree student at Aston University, and I am not a nerd. I kind of see myself as somebody that values education based on the fact that the way the world is going today, education is something that will set you up for success in a sense. And in as much as, some people still get successful without education, I feel like I don't have the ability or that luck to play it that safe in a sense. So I just do it because my family, they're all educated, and it's kind of like something like a passing rite in a sense. And I've got lots of role models that are in the education field, and I just love it. I just don't like the school and the assessment part, but education for me is brings some sense of security for me.
Okay. And your education, you're talking about formal education, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Formal education.
Okay. Who wants to go next?
Okay, I'll go next. So I'm Uzamaka, but I mean, literally everybody calls me Uzi. Even some extended family members don't know my full name. That is how bad Uzi has taken over. So I am currently doing the last year of my PhD doing economics, and I've always studied economics. So every time people ask me, what did your master's in? My jet has always been economics. It's just, that's all I've studied. So yeah. And then my thoughts about education, in a way, formal education. I think that in as much as I lean more towards what George said, in the sense that when you're looking at probabilities, it's like, where do you have the highest probability of being in a sort of safe zone, a safety net? And I feel formal education provides you that higher probability. And so I endorse it. Like, I feel people should get it just to be in that safe zone, even out the probabilities of at least having a measure of safety, economic wise. This is economic safety in terms of financial security, economic security, job security. You just have a little bit more room to be safe with a formal education.
Okay. All right. Onokwe.
All right. My name is Onokwemipo, and I run a bookstore here in Nigeria, and I own a book club as well, the Luminaries Book Club. Well, my take on formal education, well, from the introduction earlier, you would notice that I don't think I'm given to it. I do not enjoy the structure and the system of formal education. So it's one of my reasons. I might be because of the way the system is here in Nigeria, but I think the educational structure is basically the same throughout the world. You are being taught something in class, and at the end of maybe the term or semester, you are being tested or assessed as to how much you know about what you are being taught, and you are graded based on your answers to that, and not about what you know as the answer, or what you think or applied as the answer. They want you to answer based on what you were taught in class. Textbook, just pour it in and pour it out. So the system for me, I do not see myself fitting into the system. So I prefer informal education. And listening to George and Uzi, I see it as a thing of preference. I noticed they mentioned something like SafeNet, and yeah, but for me, I see formal education as shocking. That's my preference now. I enjoy the liberty of informal education. I enjoy the liberty of education beyond four walls. I enjoy the liberty of education without assessment. Education where life is what is assessing what you've learned or not. So this is not the case of maybe trial and error. You get your answers firsthand. You don't wait till when you graduate before you get your answers. Now, if I learn something through books, and it's something I can easily test in the real world situation, like it's not a controlled environment where we are saying this is specimen A, specimen B, specimen. No, we are seeing this in the real world sense. So that is why most of the time, most of the things we learn in school have no real life application or real life value. So I learn informally and I grab more, I learn more informally, and I see myself doing more informally than what I would do with a formal education or so. So this is not to tarnish or to say less of formal education. This is as per my preference. Now, from introduction now, you will notice that I currently run a book club, I run a bookstore, and at least I've been fairly successful. I think the idea of safe net for me is freedom, not being boxed into a class. I think that's my own idea of safe net. As I am now, I believe I do not need a degree or a qualification before I can do. Now, if I wake up tomorrow and of course, I cannot say I want to become a psychologist or a medical practitioner without a degree. So if that is what I really want to become, definitely I know I need a certification. But with my own plan and purpose and my timeline for my own life, I do not see the need for a formal education or a degree. And so me taking that decision, one of the reasons why I took the decision was that it's better for me to spend these years I would have spent in a formal setting, informally, and learn what I would learn. So that is my preference. I see myself doing more and doing better with informal education than a formal education.
Okay, so you guys actually raised very interesting topics, right? Or points. There is a networking part of it. There is a job security part. I think for me personally, my mom has some secondary high school education, so I'm not from an educated background at all. I think for me, growing up, my mom is also a farmer. She's a produce merchant, so she does like cashew seeds and cocoa seeds and things like that. But I feel like if she was educated, she would have been exporting, not selling to the people who were exporting. So for me, growing up and watching her work so hard for other people to take the profits, to take, away from everything she had done, my idea was if I was educated, education will empower me to do more. Education will give me the avenue to do a little better than her. And I think ultimately for me, education also came with some sort of status. If you were educated, I went to a school where, I mean, the rich, the poor, everybody came together. I went to Mayflower School. But you could see some ways that the teachers, related to people, the students whose parents were not too educated, and then the medical doctors in their big vehicles and things like that. So education for me was always a status, well, not always, but it was highly influenced by status when I was growing up. Why did you, and Okpemikwa told us why, informal education was this thing. Georgia, apart from it being something you guys grew up with, why formal education,
I mean, I would say this, that not Pemipo, it pretty much hit the nail on the head.
Okay,
I think I
don't
butchered your name, but
It's fine.
I think you did.
I actually think I did.
George is not Yoruba. Okay.
Oh, it's understandable.
Yeah. Can you say it one more time so like I know it? I'll
Oh no,
do it.
Pemipo. Even me, I got it one
Oh
time.
no, Pemipo.
Once.
Okay.
Exactly.
Oh no, Pemipo. Okay, done.
Yeah.
Like you hit the nail on the head. Like it was straight on. And I actually wrote down a few points that you raised. The fact that you're reading a textbook and then you just pour it in and pour it out. Yeah. Informal education is based on formal education is based on preference. It's choking. It's you rather education without assessments. And these are things, trust me, these are things that I've actually like done a little bit of research on, because growing up in a country like Nigeria, where education is more of a status in a sense than actually what you're taking in or what you're getting from the education, because you could easily get the same job like someone that's not educated in Nigeria. And
Exactly.
it's all about the connections you get, precisely. So I've actually thought about this, and I've thought about the fact that education, or formal education, is subjective. It's really, really about who is doing the assessment, what measurement instruments are being used in this assessment, and how much culture and the environment and the society affects what you're learning. And because if you look at something like uh, maybe like a course, for instance, and you look at the things that you're measuring that a person needs to know from this course, it's going to be different from, let's say, someone in Nigeria. The assessment system will be different from someone in Europe, for instance. So in that sense, like, who determines like what exactly you need to get out of a particular thing, and who determines how it's successfully is being absorbed by students. So like these conversations around these decisions makes education really, really questionable in a sense, because if the professor doesn't like you, or if the teacher doesn't like you, or if you're not able to, show the teacher what you've learned, or you're showing it in other ways and it doesn't necessarily translate to the way it's been asked, yeah, you're going to be marked down in a sense. So I really, really agree with that. Like being able to see the real life application is, in a sense, better than you spending thousands and thousands of dollars. Like, it's all about money now. That's another big chunk of it. Like it is about how much money and how much debt you can get into to get the highest degrees. And you said it perfectly. If it's not medicine, if it's not anything that you need, like a psychologist, that you need to have that really concrete knowledge of a particular subject area. Like, why are we even, like, most of my life I've learned everything I've learned through work experience, and half of the things I've learned through education I've not even gotten to use them. The only thing I've actually used is maybe communication and conflict management. That's about it. Everything else you learn it on the job. So I totally see where this is going, or where you're going with this, but at the same time you need to take another look at the society we're in today. I'm not saying we need to conform, or we need to, like, be defeated about the fact that formal education has taken over, but it's just sitting down to reassess and reevaluate the fact that this is where the world is going. And if you're not part of that, force, or that new wave, how are you going to be, how are we going to survive in the next generation? Because in the next 10 years, a bachelor's degree is going to be obsolete. It's like a master's degree is going to be the benchmark.
Yeah.
So it's just where in the world you are and where the world is going. That's for me.
All right.
Let me actually say something real quick before, and we'll come back to this. I'll let you guys make your point. George, I was saying, think about this, okay? I feel like before, like 10 years ago, yes, a bachelor's degree would have been the benchmark. But I feel like moving forward, the next 10 years, having a bachelor's degree might actually be nothing. Nothing in the sense that people are redefining education. Most people graduating, I just want the 6-month certificate to be a Scrum Master, to be something. And nobody wants the 4-year degree. So I agree that in the next 10 years, the work requirements will be different, but not a master's degree. It's
not a master's.
It's going to be some work experience and a couple certifications here and there, especially with IT and finance. But I will let you guys make your point, and I will come back to that.
All right. Okay. All right. Following the George's line of thought, I think for formal education, I see we are saying education. I would like us to
formal education.
Pinpoint it of formal education. And as per formal education, before I made my decision of, just sidelining formal education and doing informal, I did a little research about how we come about the school system. And I found out something interesting. It was the Industrial Revolution, when we needed factory workers. So we need more factory workers. So we need a system where we train people to do what we want them to do. So we get the best out of them. That's where we get things like, get a good grade, get a good job, a high-paying job, and all of this and all of that. So looking at that, I knew that no, this wasn't for me because I, for one, isn't one that want to get a good job. I don't want to work at a job. I don't want to work at a job. Now, the networking part of it and the communication part of it, I'm saying in the next 10 years, I'm happy that we are saying that these are degrees are going to be, most of them are going to be obsolete. Now, we are going to be talking about soft skills in the next 10, 15 years. Now, how well are you intelligent emotionally? How well can you communicate your values, communicate what you intend? How well can you lead? How well can you think critically? I think these are the things we are going to be looking at in the next 10 years, because with the advancement of big data and robotics and all of these things, robots they are replacing most of these things we are going to school through formal education to acquire. So I personally, I am, at least with the way you see, I'm not one that is against education. I'm just not called out for um, formal education. And going with what George said, the thing is, it's all about the money now. Now, this is a system. The educational system, it's a golden goose, it's a money-making machine. Even the government and most of us knows that this system is faulty already. But because it is still bringing money, let me put in a case study now. In Nigeria here, jam form is about 4,700 naira now. Now, a rough statistic now, I don't know the current one. Let's say we have about 6 million students buying the jam form, and we know that our school system can only take about 1 million. Now, the remaining 5 million students buying the form, what happens to them? And now this form we are talking about is just a paper you are buying. That's just one form. Now, printing of the form for the 6 million form will never, I'm not sure it would cost up to 500,000. Now, look at the profit margin. Now, look at the stress you have to go through. George said something the other time, whether the professor likes you or not affects your grade. Now, whether the professor assessing your test is in a good mood or not is affecting your grade. So whether the professor is going through a divorce or whatever, is all of this thing comes together. So I just feel like, see, this system for me is outdated. It's just like a big mammoth. We don't know where to place it, so we are still making money off it. So in the next 10 years, I think most of these degrees will be obsolete. Now it's going to boil down to what you can as a human, like your humanity now, because robots are taking a lot of things. Now it's going to be about creative thinking and things that we know that artificial intelligence has not gotten to yet. So I think that is what we should be looking at now. And for me, I believe knowledge can be acquired, not only in schools. I'm looking at books in front of me and I have books behind me. If I want to know about psychology, human psychology today, I can get them. Now, knowledge is so easy that you can get it at the tip of your fingertips, like of your fingers. I can go to YouTube and learn. I can go to Google and learn. So I think the walls are broken down. We just do not want to let go of this money-making machine, this golden goose. I think that's what education, like the school system, is about now. And personally, I'm not in for that. I don't even have the money to pay to someone that will still treat me like trash. And I'm paying to you. I would go through harsh conditions to learn, and yet you still treat me somehow. This is your job. You don't expect me to bribe you before I get what I work for. All of those things doesn't make sense to me. So I think once education is decentralized the way it's going now, I think that's the future. Because school system in the next 10, 20 years, we are going to be having no need for it. I think Google now accepts, Google is not longer concerned about degrees now in their, yeah, exactly. So I think that's where we are going to.
Yep. Huzi, what are your thoughts?
All right. I mean, there was something, see, I've forgotten the name now. Thank you.
Yeah.
There was something Emiko said, and which is the fact that knowledge can be gained anywhere. That's a fact. It's not, you can't dispute that. It's fact. However, another thing he said is like, it's subjective. I think what it is with today's world is you expect young people, children who are 16, 17, to have already figured out what they want to be in the future and make a decision at 16 and be like, oh yes, I'm going to be a doctor. Oh yes, I'm going to be this. When they have only lived about 10% of their entire lifetime, but they can make that decision at that age. But now for him, he said, okay, maybe he had a huge, intuition, or he figured out early enough that, okay, I'm not cut out for this. And so he took the steps to ensure that I'm not going to be dependent on whatever comes out of that process, which is all good and fine, And I think in the argument when you say that in 10 years' time, degrees will be obsolete and stuff, some jobs would be obsolete, some degrees would be obsolete. Because right now, part of my PhD is actually looking at the replacement of humans by robots. That's part of my thesis. And what it is that there are some tasks that can never be replaced by robots because they require that human part of it. Like you just cannot code it to perfection. And you might think it would be a neurosurgeon. It's not. It's something as simple as a cleaner. A room is not scattered in the same way across hotel rooms. People scatter their rooms differently. So a robot cannot be programmed exactly to clean every room. You still need a human being to come and be like, oh, this room is not so scattered. I won't clean it like that. Or this, do you get? So, and then you have like high abstract thinking jobs where you cannot, the artificial intelligence is not just at that level to replace those people. The people who are at risk are the manual workers for now. That's what the data has shown. People who their jobs are very repetitive, is easily codable, is easy, it can be replaced.
George,
and
HR.
You're driving that bus though.
Now the thing about subjectivity in the form of formal education, like if a lecturer doesn't like you, if this, that, I think we shouldn't even be having that conversation. And why I think that is that those things thrive when the system fails. A system is in place to put in checks the excessiveness of human beings. If someone is having a bad day and marks you down in a country like here in the UK, you can have another lecturer mark it. And whatever comes out of that works. And it's a very simple process. In Nigeria, I know it's a Herculean task because I had to go through that twice. And I know that it is not for the faint-hearted. That is not a process you want to do. So I think when we talk about, the human part of it, we shouldn't really base the argument on that because that is where checks and balances come in. An effective system should be able to curb the excessiveness of the people in that system. So now for me, it's like, I feel some people ask me, well, why are you doing a PhD? And or they'll be like, oh, should I do a PhD? Or they'll be like, oh, should I do a PhD? And I'll tell you the one thing I say is that if you don't know what you want to use a doctorate for, do not get one.
Exactly.
It's that simple because it is a huge commitment. For me, right from when I was young, this comes from my background as well. My parents are professors. My mom had a PhD at the age of 27. So I grew up knowing what a PhD was. Like it was already there, knowing that, oh yes, this is this and this is that. And my parents had always put it in me that, Uzi, Nigeria is not your focus. You're focused internationally. And for you to be able to compete, to even out the playing field, you need to be diseducated. And already the kind of jobs I had in mind, the kind of place I had in mind to go is a place I know I need a formal education. Like not just a formal education, I need it to the highest level that exists. Or now you say, okay, in some places, you cannot practice, applying what you learn in a classroom to the real world. I'm a bit ambivalent on that. There are some courses I know that, yes, you learn how to draw a mosquito. I don't know what I ever did with that drawing of a mosquito that we did in biology. Like, God knows whatever came about that. I've never had to draw a mosquito. I've never had to do any of that, But then I will speak of my field because that is the field I am familiar with. In economics, for instance, you cannot head a central bank if you do not understand the basic principles of economics, for starters. You cannot do that again if you do not understand the applications of economics. Now, you can say, oh, I'll read a book and stuff, but how are you applying this knowledge on a go? How are you keeping up with the knowledge that is coming out? And so currently, I'm in econometrics. Econometrics is statistics, mathematics, and economics fused together. And what we do basically is we use data to make forecasts. You forecast, but your forecast is based on economic theory. You can't just forecast. Why is the forecast? A forecast has to make sense somehow, but what are you basing it on? This is a knowledge you would acquire through formal education. Yeah, you might argue that you can sit down and read all these books and stuff, go through years. But how many years would you spend reading by yourself, by yourself, without interacting with other economists, in quotes, right? And funny enough, I think this is going to be my last point, and I'll give it over to someone else. You said something about, in a school system, you come, they teach you, you produce whatever it is, they assess you on how well you understood that. But I think because I've gotten to a PhD level, I've understood something quite interesting. In a PhD level, the roles are switched. Nobody cares about what you read in the book. Nobody wants you to say what you read in the book. What they're after in a PhD is, what is your own space? Everybody has said all this stuff. What are you saying? What is your own opinion on this stuff? And until you can identify that space where only you have thought of this thing, only you have said that, okay, no, we can actually do this way. Nobody's going to give you a degree. It's not going to happen because you've not made any significant contribution, which is counterintuitive because you're raised in a system where it's the other way. Read, understand, explain. But now they are telling you, no, read, understand, criticize, and contribute. It's a shock because it's like, whoa, I have not been trained to do this. And that's why a PhD is quite longer than a master's degree because you're spending time to kind of retrain yourself into, rather than just absorbing and regurgitating, you're absorbing, thinking, criticizing, and finding that space that is like, this is missing. So I actually feel that, or not the people, I'm so sorry. I actually
Fine.
feel that you would fit in perfectly in a research place because you're inquisitive naturally and you don't want the boundaries that come with like a restricted education. The thing is, Nigeria doesn't give you that flexibility. You can't really do stuff like that. In other countries, you can decide purely that you don't want to do assessments. Instead, you want to work on projects for your assessments, which is fine. You can decide that you want to do research instead of exam. Perfectly okay. People are given more room to exercise their individuality than you would have like in Nigeria. In Nigeria, it's very herdy, it's very ordered. You have to be like this, do it like this. This is how we've done it. We cannot change. It must be
Exactly.
done
So
this way.
it's just like it's like we training a monkey to swim.
Yeah.
So I
Exactly.
really do not buy into the idea. So what we are saying, like for me, I still think like we are still going back to our initial point. It's subjective to what we all want out of life. Now, Uzi made a very clean point. Like she was born into PhD. Like her parents are both doctors, and she knows that there's a benchmark for her to meet. It would have been, well, for me, if I was born into that kind of family and I'm still this me, I'm very sure that, well, the influence would have been there, but I'm very sure that this me, this same me with this same knowledge will still defy the odds as to going for a PhD. Now, about what we want out of life. Now, me assessing myself at a very, very young age, I look at the skills that I naturally and the abilities that I naturally have. I see that these things do not really need formal education for, although it's very, very prominent, like it's needed, it would help. But I think for me, these are things that I can go the informal way and still make it, in the sense of make it now. In our definition of success, all our individual definition of success now. For me, I do not have the dream of heading the central bank. Neither do I have any such dream that, I know if I want to be a doctor now, it's kind of different. Naturally, I'm an artist. I draw, I paint. And I do not think I need the school system. Although in the school system, I tend to learn about those that have painted before me, that have drawn before me, the likes of Leonardo da Vinci, Picasso, and all of these ones. But I still feel like this is a practical something. I could still learn without the formal way. So I think just to cut it short, it still boils down to what we all want out of life. I do not, if it's about networking, about meeting people, that is what I need a formal education for, as some people argues, because I've had to discuss with my peers and I say, okay, I see them, even they know that they are wasting their time in school. And one of their arguments is that they need to connect and this and that. And I'm telling myself, I said, see, meeting people and getting to build relationship, I don't think it's something you learn in school. They don't teach that in classroom. this is your human side. I think I've come to understand the power of networking and building relationship as it relates to sacrifices. Many of us are selfish. That's why we are taking some ways to achieve this networking and all of that. See, when it comes to networking and building relationship with people that will help you, it's about sacrifices. You need to sacrifice your time. You need to sacrifice a lot of things to build that kind of, and it's based on relationship. Now, as of today, now I know I have friends and I have people in my networks that they have PhDs. I have doctors, I know nurses, I have CEOs, I have people in high places. Now, for me, education to me is okay, I know how to read, I know how to write, I know how to learn, and I can unlearn what I've learned and relearn. So I think that for me is the education that I really need, the formal education that I really need. Now, it is left for me, that's the foundation, it's left for me to now build upon that. So because I don't think I have those high goals or dreams or aspiration of heading the central bank. Mathematically, when anything is beyond 2 times 2, 2 plus 2, okay, 2 times 2 plus 2 divided by 3, like it's too much for me. So I don't see myself. So I do not. So I do not really see the need for me now. I'm not talking about so that's why I'm going back to our initial point and observation that it's kind of relative, it's subjective to individual preference. So if I do want to own a prestigious, yeah, you mentioned something, Uzi, about places you will be that you need formal education. Of course, there are places that you get to with formal education, and I think with the way the world is being wired now, I think all we do is we embrace success. Everybody is a fan of success. Now, if someone happens to be successful, it's going to take a longer time or a while before you ask the person what kind of degree the person has. Now, running a business for me is also a lane towards success, if that's what we are all pursuing. Running a business for me is a road to success for me, and it's the path that I've decided to choose. Now, if I become successful as a business person, this is money talking. Like George said initially, it's about money. Now, this is money talking. I don't think anybody has, me personally, I do not know if Dangote has, or I don't know of his degree. Now, I just know he's the richest man in Africa for now. You understand? So I think it all boils down to how comfortable we want to be in life, what we want to get out of life, and what we are aiming for. Me, I don't think what I'm aiming at, formal education, is a vehicle to get to my destination. And that is why I've chosen this path that I know is a sure bet. Now, if I go to school to earn an MBA, I know it's going to help me as per my business journey, but I'm very sure I can also learn that informally too. I think there's a book, The Personal MBA by Kaufman, and there are many business books that I could learn. And there are business moguls that I know I've seen physically, and they have run business in this climb that I can move towards. I can have them as mentor, and yeah, basically things are working. So that is, I think that would be my own final contribution on this.
Okay.
Can I just say something? Just one thing.
Go ahead.
On our payment for, like, I just want to say, Dangote has a bachelor's in business administration from a university in Egypt. So
that's beautiful.
I mean, with Dangote, it's like, it's a really, really good, like, you made some really, really great points, and as well as Uzi. And like, as Uzi said, the point where you expect 14-year-olds to, choose effectively or make that informed decision at that age is really, really a disservice to 14-year-olds out there. Because look at a system like Nigeria, where at 14, you're in JSS 3, which is that transition period between junior secondary and senior secondary.
Mm-hmm.
So you're expected to know where you want to be, what you want to do, and you're expected to get into that channel where you start SS1 and then you're taking biology, chemistry, and physics. Or if you're going into arts, you are not taking biology, chemistry, and physics. So a bunch of kids have already lost out on becoming medical doctors,
Yeah.
in a sense. And because those foundation years are really, really important. So for me personally, growing up in a family that's like Uzi, but they're educated. My dad is a doctor. My mom is a nurse. My dad is an engineer. So like that already set the foundation. And Nigerian parents, when you tell them you want to be this and that, and they're looking at you like, okay, is this worth the investment? Is this worth the school
You.
fee? So being in a family of seven, we had to actually, in fact, we each of us pretty much had a profession set out, carved out for us from
By your
birth.
parents. Mhm.
So it's not like necessarily like, because my parents are educated, they don't want to like put it out there and like kind of like stamp it on your face. They just have something that is waiting for you, that this is what you might do. And then they start from birth and like tell you, okay, you're gonna be a lawyer, you're gonna be a lawyer. Oh, that's my lawyer. Oh, that's my little lawyer. Ah, my lawyer, come and take, things like that. Things like that. And then you're like, okay, sure. Yeah, I think law is the way to go. But then you get to
Mhm.
JSS3, that space where you're going to cross that crossroad, and then you're just like, okay, daddy wants me to be a lawyer, mommy wants me to be a lawyer. Everybody in the family know I'm their little lawyer, but you're not reading all these texts and reading all these different things, and then you're just like, maybe law is not really for you, but you can't tell them because
Yeah.
they're the ones paying for the jam form that you're going to fill out down in the line, and nobody's going to pay for mediocrity. Like in a sense, they see it as you going to get a waste space. Like imagine telling your parents, "Oh, I want to come and be I'm going to, let's say, UNIO, for example, University of Nigeria, to go and study arts or
Linguistics.
dance or linguistics," and they'll just look at you. They might even run an intervention for you because that's Nigerian parents for you.
Yeah.
Because for me, I feel like if I had the choice and if I could go back in time, I would definitely go into the sciences, because in as much as when I was at that crossroads where I was set to choose what I wanted to be, everybody wanted me to be a lawyer.
Mhm.
And funny enough, after working in the field where I'm able to see how lawyers operate, that is not me. I'm more of the one that uh, defends the law, in a sense. Like I'm more of that person that is more of like
Holding the
holding
law.
people to, yeah, holding people accountable
Yeah.
to stuff than helping people
Lawyers
get
are
off of
finding
stuff.
loopholes.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that's all lawyers do, but at the same time, it's like I in that space where I'm at that crossroads. If I had somebody, for instance, a good counseling service, and I don't know about all the universities in Nigeria, I would say this, that the counseling service in our high school where we grew up, where we went to, me and Uzi went to the same high school, FYI.
We went to the same high
We
school.
did not have that. There was no investment in that aspect of our lives. And it was just left to you to determine what you wanted, what you liked. Like I didn't even take any class in like physics or chemistry. I did. If I had the option of like taking it, if I did take it, I would have loved it, because all I saw was my two older brothers were in sciences and they were always reading big textbooks. And I didn't like reading big textbooks. I didn't like anything that I couldn't feel, touch, or see. So like when you're talking about like matter and atoms and stuff, I can't see it. So I'm not interested because I cannot see it. Like I want something I can visually see.
Yeah.
But then I ask myself, okay, if this is already out of the question, what is the other available option? It's arts. And I didn't know anything besides accounting, which you're counting money. That was my definition of accounting.
Yeah.
Accounting money, or law, which you're gonna be arguing in court. You might see yourself on TV. Or it looks fancy, right? You
Yeah.
dress nice, and what other profession is there in sciences? Arts. Like that was my limited vocabulary of professions. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, sure, I'll go into law because I have no other choice. It's either do this or I have to go to sciences and I'll have to read all these textbooks. But then I found out that going into law, you still have to read the textbooks. So it's like I pretty much got myself into a situation where I'm like, okay, I now need to start thinking critically. And that was one of the reasons why I would say that I am really, really bent on giving back to my to my high school, because kids need to understand what they're getting themselves into. Kids need to know that education is not a means to an end, or like how do you, I'm not even using
The
that phrase
catch
correctly.
all
Yeah,
yeah.
the end all see all or something
And
like that. Something like that.
Yeah.
Kids don't know that. Kids need to understand that education can be formal or it can be informal. And even without an education, you still have a chance. It's about building on that strength, building on that artistry, building on that craft. Because in Nigeria, tell somebody that you want to be a painter or an artist, they'll look at you funny, because what are you going to do with
no,
that?
it's not even about a random person. Now, one of the questions I
Yeah,
was
same
being
thing.
asked, one of the questions I was being asked was, it was more like there's a blueprint for me. It's either I'm this or I'm this. So when I decided that I'm not going to be any of these things you guys are saying, and one of the things they said was that, how are you going to feed your family?
Yes,
How do you
that's
want
a
to
big
get a
one.
house with it? Now, and it's crazy. Now, when I said I want to be an artist, the guy was like, oh, even my pastor had to say, like, how do you want to do it? Like, how do you intend to? So I think I kind of understand that fear and where they're coming from.
Mm,
Taking this kind of route is something that is strange to them because of the way they were
yeah.
being brought up. Now, my
Yes.
aunt of blessed memory, she took me for deliverance actually when I said I wasn't going to scare her. The
Cast
reason
that
being
demon
that,
out.
yeah. So the reason it was a very funny thing because in my father's family, like they are scholars. They are scholars. My aunt, before she died, she was, I think, level 15 in education, I think here. So they are all scholars. They are educated, they are learned. So now me just coming out in the family and saying I don't want to go to school is it's something that's unheard of. So she just invited me to her place one Tuesday and said, okay. So she said I'm going to be staying over. So the Wednesday she said okay, so I should just see her after some. And we got there. I realized it's a church. So and the man started praying for me, and I didn't bring a cloth to change. So as he was trying to cast out this and wanting me to fall, in my mind I was saying, "There's nothing to cast out, and I'm going to wear this clothes home. I didn't want to stain this clothes." I was just struggling. The man said, "So the man was like this demon is so strong. It's so
Strong.
You have to
strong."
refer you for further deliverance.
Exactly. So, they were just saying it.
That is crazy.
So the man was saying a lot of things in my ear, but it's just to show that it's something that is unheard of, and I've had many challenges. It's not something that is easy for me to just take the decision and just go because of the way up until today, people still find it hard to believe, and I still have people asking me to write exam. I still have people asking me to go write an exam. In 2015, it was so tough for me that the pressure was just so much. Everywhere I turned to, go at work, at home, go take an exam. I said, see, no problem. I'm going to take this exam just to. But the thing is, I told myself, anything like examination malpractice or so, I'm not going to do it. So if I pass this exam, then you guys won, I'm going to school. But as God would have it, I failed. Hopefully.
As God would have it, sorry.
I thought
And
this
I
was
was
going
so,
somewhere else. I was like, okay.
and I was so happy and liberated, like, wow, thank God. So the only subject I passed was CRK and a few okay, I passed
That pastor is the pastor's prayers.
Pastor,
He's
yeah.
stuck with you.
so I passed CRK, I passed English, but when I was writing mathematics, I did study hard for this one because I really wanted to. Let's just see. So when I opened the whole question, I could not understand any. So I just closed the question paper. I submitted and I go home. I went to sleep. So people thought I was crazy. I went to sleep. I said, "Yeah, I can't
The
kill
parents to
myself."
wake you up. The parents to wake you
Exactly.
up. You are
So
sleeping.
it was somehow, but for
You're sleeping.
CRK, while I was writing CRK, our time frame was 2 hours 30 minutes, and I finished in 30 minutes. I even collected an extra sheet. I finished in 30 minutes, submitted and left the hall. I went home to sleep too. So, but when the result came out and I discovered that I failed, I was so happy that thank God. Now you people can see that I'm not going to make it in this school system. See, I'm failing. I failed the first time. I failed the second time. I failed the third time. So why don't people just leave me and allow me succeed at what I'm good at? So I think that, so it's not up until today. I still know I have friends that are still telling me that I'm wasting away without a degree, without a certification, so to say, that they are trying to let me know that, see, if I can do this without a degree, I can do more with a degree. And I say, why? What more? What more could there be? If I want to write a book, whatever I want to be, I believe I can be it with or without a formal education. That is my own kind of belief.
Well, you cannot be a director of World Bank. That one we established.
But I do not want to be a director of World Bank. so that's it for me. So I think, for me, I like structures. I like building structures. So once I have an idea, I like to build the idea. I like to build the structure. I like to see it grow. So I think this works for me. I don't need any certification to prove that, okay, you can run a business. I know I can. So I think that's just it. Yeah, I'm listening.
But what about, like, with the fact that you're already good at what you do, and with the way the world is today, you need, well, not like you need, but the world wants you to have some sort of credibility to what you do. And in a sense, an education gives you a credible point where you can walk into a room and, based on the metrics and the way we measure how people know things today, you can tell people comfortably, without question, that you know your stuff. You know this because you have this to back it up. Because you have somebody, a professional in the field. Yeah, just like a doctor. Like, you would want your doctor to have some sort of backing of a registered organization, some sort of credibility to his or her education, some sort of body that has, of his peers that have been able to sit down and assess his ability, his knowledge in this. And I feel like in that sense, that's where the credibility aspect comes in, because we're in the world today in a space where you have a lot of people that could be practicing without a license, that could be doing things without, just having the full rounded experience or the full rounded knowledge about the subject area. And you just, like, just look at something like, for instance, like traditional medicine, which has been around over the years. It has worked. It has helped a lot of people. And with the way education is going now, and let's say medicine, and the fact that they're tapping into these parts of education that has been, around for a long time, and adding that into this new space of education where we are trying to be less subjective. We're trying to create more people to be creative thinkers and get people to control their ability or their education, or choose their courses, or choose their assessment methods, or have options. Things like this, where education is actually trying now to deviate from that space where it's clear-cut, fixed, to a space where the user is able to navigate that learning experience. So in some ways, I think that, not necessarily that you want to get to a higher point, or not necessarily that you see that you're not at a point, you probably see yourself at a space where you are content with where you are right now without education. But I feel like adding that to yourself will take you from a point where you see things right now it will open your eyes to a different perspective, a different way of seeing, and a different, a different world, just like traveling.
I get you.
Can I actually say something really quick before you go into your response?
All right.
Because I know your response is going to be very detailed. In a way, I actually do not really agree with George 100% on that. And why I don't is because what you said about, having credibility. It varies from field to field.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Obviously, I would want to know that my pilot graduated from piloting school. My God,
Exactly.
you don't need how to, you don't need how to fly. You don't need this and then enter plane. No, I want to
Is it
know
not
that
to
you
watch
were
YouTube video?
Oh
You
no,
don't want
no,
video. But
no.
now, if someone is an artisan, if someone is a crafts person, and you see their raw talent, like
Exactly.
I see your talent. It's different. I don't really need you to be credible. I see
A
your talent.
certificate.
Or like
Exactly.
a musician. Do you get what I mean? A musician or a footballer. You see their talent. They don't need the credibility of a formal education. But I mean, obviously,
Exactly.
your doctor, my God, I don't want to know that it's Grey's Anatomy that you're coming to practice on.
Yeah. So yeah, see, Uzi has said, yeah, kind of what I wanted. I would have pointed. You see, for me, I can boldly say that I do not have a CV. Now, for someone like me, I've had this argument, and I'm talking about years of having to, having people telling you that you are following the wrong path. So I've had this argument. If I get $1 for this, I think Jeff Bezos, we are going to be mates. For every time I get this argument. So it's because I hear it almost every time. Now, this is it. Instead of having a certificate tell me that this is what I have, I prefer my works showing that this is what I have and this is what I can be. By their fruits you shall know them. By my works you can. That is why to make to make it kind of easier for me. If you go to honorkwemipo.com now, I bought the domain. I built the website myself. Now this is my work. I want people to see that. Now my face is not there. I hardly show my face online. I want the works to go. Now I don't have a CV because what do I want to put on the CV? As per the status quo, I need to have schools and certifications and all. I do not have a CV. And up until now, I do not think that I've written an employment letter, an application letter for a job. Now, that is what we are saying. I have works, I do designs, I tell stories, I make artworks. Now, these are works that people need to see before they can work with me. And like Uzi said, even I, as I am, I need some. See, if you are a doctor, you must be formally trained. If you are a pilot, before I enter your plane, if it's possible for me to see a certificate, I will. So there are things that I do not joke with. But as I said, it's about preference. For me to be me, to get to where I intend to get to, I do not think. Now, if I okay, let's put this in context now. Let's say tomorrow I decide and say, well, okay, let me just go to school and have a certificate. Now, if you will be meeting me, George, everything that I say, every form of accomplishment or credibility that I may have or exude, if you'll be meeting me, you would give all the praise, you will allot it over to the credential that I have. Isn't that the truth? Now, that is it. So you will give all these things to the certificate, like, oh, okay, yeah, you are this because you are this, you have a certificate in this. And that is what I do not want. Yeah. That is what I do not. It's not about me being stubborn or troublesome now. Now I sit down and I ask myself, let's say I want to go to school. I want to, let me resume formal education tomorrow now. What do I really want to read? And that's one of my problems then too. Like you said, a 15-year-old, what do I want to go to school to read? I was confused. So I was in the commercial class while I was in my senior secondary, because at least that was where I stopped. And that was the wrongest place I ought to be. Now, if I was in art class, it would have helped me.
Yeah.
If I was in science, it would have helped me because biology is my favorite subject. I still remember. You can see my T-shirt. Symbiosis. This is my new business. Yeah, it's my new business, and it's from my knowledge of biology, commensalism, parasitism. See, when we talk about homeostasis, and see, these are still fresh in my head. I love science. I love that whatever I learn in science, I can see it. Like I'm learning about reproduction, animal reproduction, about the aves, the classes of the animals, and the reptiles, the aves, the mammals, and I'm seeing them. I love it. The endocrine system, the gland, the neurons, the nervous system, all of this, I still have them fresh in my head. I know them and I love them. So if I'd gone to the art class and I learned how to paint, to draw, and it would have been helpful. If I had gone to the science class, it would have been helpful for me too, because this is what I enjoy doing. But when I was in school, I saw, just like you said, I saw these people wearing glasses. in the science class, and I saw the way they were just serious, and I said, ah, man, I don't know maths, and there's further maths again. How can I cope with this place? Now I look at those in the art classes. I see the way they are uncultured, the way they are just, the way they are just unorganized. And me being someone, yes, me, that's just the way. And now me being a person of structure and organization, I do not see myself fitting into that place. Now, this is me just taking that face value as a child. And I just felt like, okay, so what is the middle ground here? Commercial. And I stood there. Now, for years, I was wasting away in this class. And the only thing I excelled at as a commerce student was biology, which was crazy. Now, you see the way this thing works. So after all of those, after all the 3 years of school and all of that, I now ask myself, now, what do I want to go to school? What do I want to further as? I cannot be an accountant. I don't even understand numbers. Commerce, I don't understand these things. So what do I want to go to school to study? I do not know. So I just feel I don't want to just go and say, okay, let me just take one thing for credential's sake. No, I wouldn't. I would not waste my time. I would not waste my money for all of that. So I just decided, see, this is what I am good at. This is what I do. And I followed that path. Now, I created a domain and a website. This is my 10th year in IT now as a designer and all of that. So I have a website, onokwemipo.com. That's a worldwide something. I don't think there's any other person. Now, I have many names. I have Rufus, which would be easier for you to pronounce. Uzi would also pronounce that well.
Introduce yourself with
Oh, now,
Femipo. Exactly. But that is one of the reasons why I stuck to the name, because of the uniqueness of it and the story behind it. It's kind of unique, and it's very, I don't think we have up to 100 on Femipo in the whole wide world. So it's kind of distinct. And of the 100 that we have, only, to be honest. Exactly. So now I have only me with the domain name onokwemipo.com. Let it be my online CV, what I would have gone to school to do. So over the year, let me put my work, let me have my portfolio there. So if you need me to do anything for you and you want to rate me, not with my credentials, go to, although the work on the website, I hold work now because I stopped uploading it for a while now. Just go see what I can do. Look at my portfolio, see what I can do. If those are not what you want, then go give your work to someone else. They are not my client. Yeah. So I think that is just the way the thing is. A whole lot of the
Can I ask a question then?
Yes.
So not Emiko.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So with your case, I think, we'll just talk about you, not like the wider society. With you, you honestly, with you, you have a natural talent, which is you're an artist, you're a painter, you're naturally talented at doing that. So in a country that works, let's leave Nigeria out of this. Let's think of a country that works. In a country that works, that is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whether you want to pursue it formally or informally, that is enough. Now let's think of another person, someone else who has no talent, because there are people like that. They don't have any talent. They are just.
I don't have any talent.
Talentless.
I don't have any talent.
George has no talent.
Are you sure? Are you sure? Is that possible?
Yeah, it does not.
I do not.
Wow.
People have zero talent. No artistic ability, no athletic ability, no musical ability, nothing. None of those. Now, with those people, what, in your opinion, is their safest bet at having a comfortable life? Their safest bet. Now, remember, this person has zero talents, no abilities, just a regular person without your special, unique artistic abilities.
What if the talent hasn't popped out yet?
But no,
it's not popcorn now.
Let's give yourself hope. Let's give yourself hope that your talent is waiting in the future.
Wow. Well, okay. Well, to answer your question, I think we are left between the devil and the red blue sea now. So I think the other option you can. I don't want to go into details now. So I'm just going to say, not for the sake of argument, for such kind of person, the best bet for them is formal education. Now, with formal education, you are trained on not how to think, but you are trained to, at least for the most part of formal education, you are trained on, how do I put it? You are trained at receiving instruction and following instruction. So you are not mostly trained on giving instructions. So for that kind of person that does not have more like a kind of a flag that is saying, okay, this is what you can anchor on, this is what you can do, I think formal education is best. The kind of person should learn in a structured environment like the school. And I believe they can make the best of themselves.
Okay.
So not for the sake of argument or going into
No,
details.
not for the
That's
sake of
formal
argument. Yeah.
education.
So for me, I think like I feel like we've taken this whole chat away from Moritaya. So
No,
sorry.
no. No, this has actually been fun just listening and watching to you guys. So yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah.
My
So I
questions.
think,
Bye bye.
I've been like I used to think about this a lot because unlike most Nigerian parents, my parents were not typical, right? So initially I was very smart as a child. So my parents were like, oh, maybe you should be a doctor, but I hated the sight of blood. I knew that as a child, I knew that I could not stand the sight of blood, but I loved numbers. So I was like, no, I just want to do something that involves numbers. And I was like, what of accounting? And my dad was like, okay, accounting is good, but have economics as a backup option. Economics is fine as well. I went to accounting was what I wanted to study originally. And my parents were fine with it. Like it was not a do or die, like, oh, you must be a doctor. Oh, it wasn't that. For my younger sister, well, we all wear glasses, right? And my younger sister has been like, she wants to solve the problem. Like, she's like, oh my God, we need to get rid of this stuff. So she wanted to be an optometrist, right? But my parents wanted her to be a writer because as a child, she was writing beautifully. And my parents, like, it became an argument in my house because she wanted to be an optometrist. But my parents were like, oh my God, you could be a creative writer. But in the end, she got her way, obviously, because my parents let you have your way. They like, life will teach you down the road. That's your problem. Yeah. But she got her way. She's an optometrist now. She just published a book last year. And I'm in my head, I'm like, if she had, sometimes I think about it, if she had actually then focused on creating, on just writing, who knows? But anyway, she has chosen her own path. That is the path she's going to walk down, right? Now, in Nigeria, specifically in Nigeria, because we all grew up there, right?
Right.
There's a probability that is not in your favor. So why I asked you that question about people who are talented or not is this. Even in the face of talent, the climb is not friendly. So parents try to make a decision they feel is the best for their children. So now, your parents can see that, oh, this person can sing, but is he that good? Are you good enough to make a living from singing? Oh, this person can play football. Oh boy, are you Messi? Are you Ronaldo?
Are you
better stop.
Are you that good? Are you that good? And so I think what Nigerian parents now do is because of the society they find themselves in, they know that if your talent fails, you go hard. Yeah. So they try to give you that buffer, which is that if all else fails, okay, at least you have this one thing to fall back on, because Nigerian society is not kind to poor people. It's not. It's really not kind. It's not kind to poor people. So they try to give you that buffer, and that's how and I think when I thought about it that way, I became much more forgiving for Nigerian parents and the way they try to make decisions for their children. But I saw that it was a projection of the society they grew up with, a society they know very well, that you might be talented, but if you fail to make a living from this talent, then it's game over. It's actually game over. There's no part two. And so they try to give you that part two.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you wholly. Now, you see, the thing for me, well, I'm not completely against formal education or the way the society works. It's just that I have like a plan for my life that I prefer to rather go with my plan for life, for my own life, rather than accept what the society or my parents would say, okay, this is what we work for you. Now, I'm so grateful that I have an understanding parent. And when I told them I wasn't going to, the only question they asked is if I would be able to cope and I won't regret it. And I said, yes, I won't. So I think now they are seeing the traces that I think this would work for this guy. So they are off my back now. They weren't on my back before, but I think now they are more relaxed and like, okay, just go ahead with it. So in the instance of people, see now what I say is for me now, being a generalist now with no although I specialize in the arts, I'm more of a generalist. If I would create something now, I'm marrying my understanding of these different fields into what I'm creating. Now, when I'm creating a logo now, there's a science to logo creation. It's not just about the creative color and all of this. No, there's a science to it. Now, I think in the case of your sister, as you mentioned, her book is going to be more robust and more beautiful because she's coming from it. She has a whole knowledge of another field and she's marrying it creatively to give birth to. It's more like an hybrid. It will have been different from her to just be a writer. Or so if I have children now, of course I want them to go to school. Although I would like to school them at home in language and things that I know that they will understand. At least my children, what I plan for them is to understand at least 6 languages before they are 10. Because I think these are skills that they are going to need in the world upcoming world, because we don't know. English is more of a general language now. German can just come and overthrow the government and we are speaking German. It could be China and we are speaking Mandarin or whatever. So I need to equip them. So for our parents, I think I understand.
Let's hope your children are born with the natural ability to learn languages.
Amen to
Well,
Amen to
the thing is, well, these are my expectations. Our parents have expectations on us. So these are my expectations of my children. And the thing is, if they decide that they do not want to, this is just me trying to have a safe net for them, like our parents did for us. You understand? So, but if they do not want it, man, I've lived my life to an extent. I'm enjoying the fruit of my labor. If you like, live your own life the way you want to live it. You would meet it. So by the time you are maybe 40 something or something, I might have gone, I may be dead. So you are left with it. Just face it. So I'm trying to equip you for the world to come. And if you say you don't, man, my parents did not kill me. I can't kill you too. So
can I just add one thing?
Okay.
So
all right.
I'm going to dial back on my comment about credibility a little bit, because from what Uzi said, it's actually quite understandable. It's actually quite true, because you could have a degree, like you could go to Harvard, you could, for instance, and I always say this, I'm not hating on Harvard or anything, but mostly you're paying for that piece of paper. You're not really paying for a degree. Before the Harvard people come for me. And the connection and the networking. Because before the Harvard people come for me, but it's still a really, really great education. But with the way education is, the assessment component are they're easily forged in a sense. So you could technically go to school and somebody is writing the papers for you. Like, not to throw somebody under the bus, but I was in this group project and this person could not speak English. And we had to write a paper. And I was questioning the person's ability to actually produce certain components of the course. And with online education now, it's like nobody's there to supervise your work. Go to buyessays.com. You can buy papers and submit it. Who is coming to check if you're the one that knows it? Nobody.
I know how many emails I get every day from all them buy essay people. Be like, oh yeah, we see you're doing a PhD in economics. Are you interested in being? And the pay is mad. It's like $50 an hour stuff. I'm like,
wow.
See, it's like, so it's like even formal education on its own, I'm like question mark, because that paper, that degree that says you're a doctor of this, okay, how many of those papers did you write yourself? Number one, what did you actually learn? How many of those exams did you not cheat to pass? These are important questions we have to ask. But we need to go back into this, because I feel like this formal versus informal war is something that
distracts. This is not a formal versus informal. This is a formal and informal.
Okay, formal, yes. So people like me, like, you see how I just said that it's formal versus informal. Like, people tend to look at it from that lens, not seeing it from a formal and informal lens. Because when you're looking at it as one is complementing the other, or one is adding to the other, we are now able to see someone like Onao Pemimpo. Did I get that right? I put the British in it. I put the British in it.
You tried.
Just a little splash of British in it. So you look at someone like that has been able to get formal education up to a point in his life where, and then has had the informal part added to his experience, and that has made him a well-rounded person.
And this is the end of the episode. I hope you found it interesting, useful, fun. Until next time, whatever it is you want to do, whoever it is you want to become, all you have to do is start. Thank you for watching.